Hello, this is Sonia here with the Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining me. And today is Wednesday and it's another stitch of the week. So every Wednesday I feature a stitch or a stitch pattern. And today we are going to learn a cluster stitch, a stitch all by itself, but I'm going to show you how to group it together so that it, looks so that you could use it in a project. Sometimes when you learn a new stitch, you don't really know how to incorporate it into a project. So I'm going to show you how to do that with this particular one. So to get started, I am using a G hook or 4.25 millimeter, and I just have some D-Kate weight yarn. You can certainly use whatever hook size you have and whatever yarn weight you have. So this stitch works with a variety of hook sizes and yarn. So to get started, what we're going to do is I'm going to chain an even amount. So why don't we chain, we'll do 12. Alright, so we have 12 chains here. And we're just going to start off with our first row. It's going to be our setup row. It's going to be a single crochet row. So at the end of this row we will have 11 single crochet. So I'm going to work in the second chain from my hook, and you can work in the chain however you wish, and just working a regular single crochet. And all of my crochet terms are in US terms. Okay, so here is my first row. I have 11 single crochet. So now we're going to get ready for row 2, and then this is where we're going to be learning the cluster stitch. So we're going to chain 4 and turn, and this chain 4 is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1 space. So we're going to skip this stitch here. So this counts as a stitch right here. Our chain 4 is our double crochet and chain 1 space. So we're going to skip this next single crochet and we're going to work in the next one. So I'm just kind of showing you how you can work this into an actual pattern instead of just an individual stitch and then you're like, okay, what do I do with it? Alright, so we are going to do a yarn over, and you're going to insert your hook in that stitch or whatever stitch you're working in, and you're going to pull up a loop. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to yarn over again, go right back in that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over again, right back in that same stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we have 4 loops on our hook. So to complete the cluster stitch, you're going to yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops. So now we've created our cluster stitch. You can see how they're all grouped together there. And it kind of looks like a puff a little bit, but it's a little bit of a flatter stitch. It doesn't really, bubble out like that, like, a popcorn or even like a bubbly type stitch. But it's kind of rounded. I think it has a nice, interesting look to it. So now we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch and we're going to work in the next. We'll do another cluster stitch. And the reason why I'm skipping is because the stitch is a little bit wider. You can kind of see that. So we are going to yarn over, go in there, pull up a loop. So we have our 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, going right back in there, pulling up a loop. We have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, back in the same. And if you know how to make a double crochet, you can make this stitch no problem. And yarning over, pulling through all 4. And to complete it, we are going to chain 1. And we're going to do the same thing, skip the next one, yarn over, work the cluster in the next stitch, pulling up our loops. So it's like you're working a double crochet stitch, but you're not working off the loops. You just are pulling through the 2 until you have your 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4. So we'll chain 1 to finish that guy off. So we'll work another cluster, so skip the next. Now we're ready to pull through all 4 of those loops. So we'll chain 1, and we're going to skip the next, and then so that it looks balanced, we are going to work a double crochet on the end. I like symmetry in my patterns. I don't think I could ever do free-form crochet. Some people do the most awesome free-form crochet. I think I would really struggle with that. Alright, so we have our first row. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 cluster stitches, and you can see how skipping that stitch, so then they can all, you know, lay flat nicely and they're not bunched and you can really see the stitch. So we will work another row. So we'll just chain 4 and turn. So this stitch would be really nice, I think, for blankets. You can make a really cute, you know, more open sweater, like a beach cover up, all different kinds of things I think you could do this stitch with. So we are going to just work on top of the cluster here. So I'm going to insert my hook right in there, and we're just going to work cluster stitches right on top of the previous ones. So just doing my yarn overs, pulling up my loops, pulling through my 2. I've got my 4 on there, yarn over, pull through all 4, and then chaining 1. So you can kind of see where you can insert your hook into there. See that nice little hole there? Your hook goes in there quite easily to work your cluster stitch. I mean, you could also just work a row of single crochet and then your next row, like every other row, work the clusters. It's, you know, completely up to you how you want to incorporate the stitch. Four loops, pull through, chain 1, and then I'm going to work on top of the chain 3. And there we go. So now we have 2 rows of cluster stitches. So I'll work a few more rows so that you can see it with a couple more rows, and I will meet you back. Okay, so I have worked a few more rows with the cluster stitches on top of each other, so you can see how it looks. And I think this would actually make a really nice stitch pattern in a shawl, especially if you used like a finer yarn and then you gave it a really nice strong block. Then you could really see the stitch pop out. But you could certainly use this, you know, however you want to, or incorporate it with other stitches. You know, I think it's pretty versatile. So I hope you enjoyed this stitch pattern, or this stitch of the week, and I thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, what are you doing? I can't believe it. I got an 8 out of 10 on the practice one. Alright, well, I'm filming right now, so. Oh, you're filming? Yeah. So I got all that on camera.